Okay, I'll just show you how I've got this set up. The car is jacked up, so I've got it up on chassis stands. Just so on the back there, just on the chassis at the front, they're on like the normal jacking spots for this. The back, you'll notice that the tyre is actually on the ground. That's fine, because you could have taken the wheels off. But it's pretty much that the axle has dropped to its lowest point anyway, because if you move them springs, the springs are loose anyway, so there's no point taking the wheels off. So there's enough room, and the reason why I've done that, it's to bring the height of the car up, just so we can get to the bolts at the top of the differential cover without the fuel tank getting in the way. It just makes it a lot easier to work with. Alright, this vehicle is a 2003 Jeep Cherokee, or Liberty in some parts of the world. This is the rear differential, and it seems to have a leak coming from that gasket. So it's the bolts around the gasket where it's leaking. So just try and have a closer look, and you can sort of see that surface there. It's very oily. Now I've pulled out that rubber plug, checked the level. The level does look a little bit low, but it's not completely empty. So the first thing I want to do is give it a good clean down, just so we can see if if we can see any parts where the oil is actually coming through. So I've set up just a drop mat on the ground, and this will be useful for collecting the oil once we undo the bolts, and also like any bits of dirt and stuff will drop into there. Top. Okay, so now just give that a bit more of a wipe down. We've got to do the sides now and then underneath. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to undo some of these bottom ones first. Try and get a bit closer. We'll go around and start taking these bolts out. But what we'll do, we can take every bolt out, but every second bolt, and then we'll see. Just do them by hand. I might just leave that very top one, actually I'll loosen it and then have it ready to grab, because I don't want the pan just dropping out and splashing oil all over me. So I'll just put that one back in a little bit. It isn't that tight, but what I'll do, it's loose a bit, and we just want to tease this to get it loose. There we go. let that all drain out. I'll take this one out now. So this is the 3 bolts remaining. Now there's only 2. You don't want that to come out too quickly because it might get in your eyes. The bulk of the oil's come out, and it should be nearly 2 litres. There's the measurements on this drip pan. If I just manoeuvre it and try and read it. I just can't see 432. There's about 1 litre of oil's come out, so it actually is low. Even though I put my hand in the plug hole up here, put my finger in, and even with like an Allen key I could dip in, and there seemed to be enough in there, but okay, so that's all the bolts loose now. So we'll just slowly move this away. And you'll notice this outside gear has little small teeth in it. They're not actually teeth to make the differential work. What they are is for the sensor at the top, and it works a similar way to the wheel sensors. So it's a sensor, a magnetic sensor, and it's there to detect the speed of the differential. Okay, so here's the actual diff cover taken out. That's the bottom section here. I'm examining it. I can't really see anything obvious where the leak may have been through here. Maybe it's just difficult to tell, and it's from these bottom nuts. Might have been the sides or top too, who knows. So what I need to do now is just clean it all up, and best way, I'll just leave that plug in there for now. Just you need to use a razor, scrape off all that old gasket. So I'll do that, and you can just tip it into here, it's not going to matter. Just take your time with this, because you don't want to scratch it. Don't use a screwdriver on here. It'll be too excessive. I'll just get the bulk of it off, then I can just degrease the entire thing, then I'll give it a fine, check it, and just give it make sure every last little bit's off. So this is a time consuming process, but you've got to do it right. So I've gone around the entire thing now. There's still little bits of gasket on there. I'll need to keep working on it a bit longer, but what I'll do now, so I need to clean it all down with some paper towel, and then I can get started on the next side. So what I'll work on now is this side, and it's just where the bolt holes are. So that's where we need to concentrate. And it's just bits of the gasket that are left inside. I need to do it up at an angle just to clear out those holes where the bolts went. Okay, so I've sprayed it with some degreaser and just went over with like a soft brush and then hosed it out. And it's come up a bit better now. So I'll have a quick inspection, and it appears to be alright. What I would recommend, having the wheels off, handbrake off, in neutral, so you can spin that and just check the entire thing, but I don't think there's any issues. There's nothing obvious, there's no bits of broken teeth down the bottom of it, so I'm not too fussed about that at the moment. So what I'm going to work on now is just cleaning off the gasket from around that. Clean off the old gasket. Okay, so I had a look on the internet about this little tag, and the purpose of that, it's got the gear ratios on there, so 3 to 73. So that information is needed if you're putting different size tyres on it, and then it's sort of the speedo, then you need an appropriate adjustment done to the speedo or a speedo gear to make everything work properly. So the next thing I want to do is cut the heads off these two bolts, and the reason why I want them is so I can screw these into a couple of the holes, and then that will help line up the cover once it's got the gasket on there. So all I need to do is just chop these down a bit. You can So what I'm going to do is, so when I start cleaning all this stuff at the top, just so bits of that don't fall into the differential, what I'm actually going to do is put a plastic bag on that. And just tuck that in there. I'm not worried about the bottom bit, we'll see that when we get to it. So, similar sort of procedure as when we cleaned up the cover. Just go around and just clean off any bits of old gasket on there. Okay, I can take that out now. I'm happy with how it's cleaned up around the edge. And what I will do, those little bolts I made up to help align it, I'll put one up here. And then one down over here. Now the product I chose to make the gasket with was this one here, the Permatex Blue RTV silicone gasket maker. The directions on this specify that you need to just cut the nozzle to the length you need and then apply it to a clean dry surface. Thickness of 2 to 6 millimeter bead, apply it to one surface and then assemble the parts immediately when the silicone is wet, and then finger tighten until materials begin to squeeze out around the flange, and then let it dry for 1 hour and then torque it up to the specifications. So I've looked up the manufacturer's guidelines for the Jeep, and it's 41 Newton meters that I need to torque it up to. So I apply that, put the gasket together, hand tighten it, leave it for an hour, and then torque it up. Okay, so we're still not ready to install it again. What I actually did, because I cleaned it up so well, I decided to, I got some caliper paint, high temperature paint, so I had that left, so I decided to paint it. makes it look a bit better. Issue is the rest of the differential still looks old and dirty, but at least that bit will look nice and new. So I'm going to use some brake cleaner, just spray that onto the rag, and then just go around and just make sure it's all nice and clean. This will get rid of any oil, like my fingerprints off it. Okay, so let that dry and then we'll get the gasket on. Okay, so that paint's all dried up now. So let's get started on this gasket. Maybe a little bit bigger. All right. Okay, now let me just go around and check if there's any part that I think is too thin. That should be fine. So we're ready to get it back on. I've just noticed a tiny bit of oil coming through here. Let me just get rid of that. And then in doing that, let me just wipe that bit with the brake cleaner. Okay, so now we're ready to put it on. Just a tip, leave that drain plug open, because then you can help get it on there easier. Okay, so the battery on the camera is just about to die, so I've got that on, and what I want to do is just put a bolt in the top and bottom. We'll do that first. Just hand tighten all the bolts. Okay, I just needed to switch over cameras because the battery was flat in the other one. So we've got that on. That's only hand tightened. I need to just take out these temporary alignment pins and put the bolts that need to go there in the right spot. Now what I want to do is just make sure it's hand tight, so we'll start in here, and the way I want to do this, one at the top and sort of just go diagonal, but just using the socket. So here and there then that one, then you, and then and just keep working through. Okay, so it's been 1 hour since that's all been done up. What I've just done now, I've gone around and torqued everything up to what it should be. On the torque wrench, I've set the torque to 41 Newton meters. That's what the specification is, and then gone around and just tightened everything up to the correct specification. So I'll just leave that now to cure for 24 hours before we refill the oil. So it's been 24 hours now, so it's the next day, and that's enough time for the gasket to cure, and now we need to refill it with oil. So I've purchased a 2.5 litre bottle, but 2 litres is what it's meant to take. So that's that. And then also I got a pump. Now the reason why I got this is because it's very difficult to hold a funnel above that little drain, the filler hole, and pour oil in there. Even with a funnel it's difficult. So the purpose of this will allow me to just stick the end of the tube in there, pump the pump, and it will pump the oil into the differential. So what I've done, I've put the oil pan back underneath, just in case there's any catastrophic failures, and also for when the oil starts coming out of this filler hole. So I've got the plug ready, so all I need to do is just sit that in here now. There's a few little pieces on there that'll help it hold in position. So all I need to do now is pump it. I'm just going to hold that. There's very thick oil. The alternative, because it's such a narrow hose, but the alternative of trying to position a funnel under there would just be a bit of a nightmare. And this pump only cost about $15. Okay, so that'll pretty much do us. Oil started coming out, so I've put the cap on now, and we're about 1.9 litres I've put in there. So once the car is put down on the ground, I will put the tyres back on the front, level it on flat ground, and then check the level again. But I think it'll be fine. Alright, thanks for watching.